Hey, it's Mr. Lambright back again with a new lesson on solving linear equations. Those are just the normal equations with one variable. I strongly recommend that in this video you pause when you see the equations pop up, try them yourself, and then make sure that you did them right afterward, because this should be one of the most basic algebra skills that we still have from Algebra 1. The idea behind these equations is that we are going to be trying to isolate our variable. In the first case, that variable that we want by itself is x. So what we're going to do is we see we've got a positive 5 sitting there, plus 5, and we need to undo it. We're going to subtract 5 from both sides of the equal sign. On the left, that will cancel, and x will equal 23. Next, we have a two-step equation. We've got 2y minus 7 equals 23. What we need to do first is we need to get rid of things. I like to think of it as like reverse PEMDAS order. So where we normally do the addition subtraction last, we're going to undo it first. In this case, we're going to add 7 to both sides, and it'll cancel on the left. We have 2y equals 30. That's 23 plus 7. And then to undo this 2 times y, we need to divide, because that's the opposite of times. And we'll divide by 2. Cancels here. Y equals 15. And we have one more example. It is where x is on, or the variable, in this case it's x, is on the right side. We're going to undo it the same exact way, starting with the addition. We're going to subtract 1 from both sides. 10 equals 3x. And then we're going to undo the 3 times x by dividing by 3. And oh no, we have such a disastrous problem. 10 doesn't divide by 3, so we're going to leave that as, personally, as an improper fraction. We don't need to... Well, one of the things we're going to find out as we go further into this class is if I turn it into a decimal and round it, sometimes I have to use that answer to get me to a different part of the problem, and if I round it, I'm going to be wrong. And also, these fractions, when we're doing things like multiplying algebraic fractions later in the class, you're really going to be glad that you had the fractions. So now we're starting multi-step equations, and the biggest thing you're going to see is we have some like terms to combine. We know that we have, on the same side, without crossing the equal sign, we have x, we have negative 4x. We are not subtracting x over or adding 4x over. They're on the same side, so we can just add them like normal. The coefficient here is 1. 1x minus 4x is negative 3x plus 10. That still stays on the left side, equals negative 11. And now we can solve this just like one of the equations from the last slide. Minus 10. Negative 3x equals negative 21, and divide by negative 3 to get positive 7. On B, we're going to combine like terms again, this time with the y's. 8y and negative 3y are going to give us 5y. The plus 13 comes down, and the 8 was not, we didn't do anything with that either. So now we're going to solve this like a normal two-step equation. Minus 13, getting things away from the y. Negative 5 equals 5y, and we will divide by 5 to get negative 1. And one more just like that. Our like terms are the x's here. We've got 12x minus 16 now equals negative 4. We're going to add 16. Negative 4 plus 16 is 12. and 12x comes down, and it's time to divide by 12. This would be a great time to pause. I know that we've been solving quickly, but they are some of the easier problems from Algebra 1. But sure, definitely if you need to, pause now, and I'm about to move on to the next slide. Now that we're on the variables on both sides part of the notes, let's pay attention to something. When we say variables on both sides, we mean on each side of the equal sign. And that means that we need to get them on the same side. And when I get it all my parentheses are gone, which we'll see later. When I get all my like terms combined, which we just saw, before I solve this equation, I want to get the variables all combined into one clump of x's or one group of y's or whatever the letter is. And that's what I'm going to do now. So I have a choice. I can subtract 8x or I can subtract 7x. Even though they don't say plus, I know they're positive because they don't have a minus sign in front of them. In this case, it's going to be easier for me if I use a little bit of intuition to subtract 7x. And that's going to leave me with 1x, which we just write as x, minus 7 equals negative 2. Don't forget the negative when you come down. And then finally, we're going to add 7. And x equals 5. And we're going to do this again now. When I'm picking, again, I'm picking what's easier. If I were to pull this negative or this 2x to the left, everything's going to be negative. If I move the negative 1x to the right, when I add it, everything will be positive. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't have to do it that way. I just think that will be easier. And in math, if I can take an easier way out, I'm going to take it. Then we're going to, it's a two-step equation now, minus 4. And divide by 3. X equals negative 5. One more to go. In this case, I've decided I've got to choose between moving the 15y and negative 7y. I'm going to add the 7y. Again, you could do it the other way around. There's no shame in it. I just think that by keeping things positive, I'm going to have a better outcome. Okay, so 15 plus 7 is 22y. Now we've got a different 22, the positive 22 that was here at the end, to subtract. Okay, and we're going to get negative 4. And you're right, this looks like it's not going to divide evenly, very, very obviously. We're going to divide by 22. And here's the difference between this and the last fraction problem. The last fraction problem was reduced. This one, the top number and the bottom number are both even, so I know I can reduce it by dividing both answers by 2, which is going to leave me with negative 2/11. Fractions are okay. We're going to have fractions all year long, and it's going to be okay. All right, last set of problems, just 2 this time, but they've got pretty much all of the steps going on. Let's take a look at A. We've got a distributive property problem. The first thing that we're going to do, anytime that we have parentheses, we are going to distribute. And that means 4 times negative 2x is negative 8x. And 4 times negative 3 is negative 12, which equals 12. Now, this one actually is just a 2-step equation. We're going to add 12. Negative 8x equals positive 24. And we'll divide by negative 8. X equals negative 3. And again, we are going to get rid of our parentheses, but this time we have 2 sets of them. So we've got 3 times 5, which is 15x. 3 times negative 8, which is negative 24. Then over here, negative 2 times negative 1, that's what the number in front of x is 2x. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. And then we've got this minus 12x stuck on the end. I'm going to go over the exact steps in order on the last slide that you'll want to copy onto your notes. But for now, we have to understand that because we have on the right side 2 different x's, we want to combine like terms without crossing the equal sign. That means it's just 2x minus 12x, and we'll get negative 10x. Nothing changes on the left. Now, we've got variables on both sides. That's the third step. So we're going to, in my case, I'm choosing to add 10x instead of subtracting 15x. If I can keep it positive, I'm going to. It means I'm less likely to make mistakes. 25x minus 24 equals negative 14. And then we're going to add 24. Negative 14 plus 24 is the same thing as 24 minus 14. So we got 25x equals 10. For our final step, we will divide by 25. X equals 10/25, and those are both divisible by 5. So let's make that 2/5 for our final complete answer. Here are the steps to solve any equation as long as it's just got one letter. One, so it's all x or it's all y, or it's not x's and y's in the same equation. If there are parentheses, the first thing you're going to do is distribute. After that, after you've distributed, if on the same side of the equal sign there are like terms to combine, you combine them. After that, you should be down to, if it's x, just an x on the left and an x on the right. Or you might already be done with that. But if you have an x on the left and an x on the right, that's when you need to take care of your variables on both sides by either adding or subtracting one of them so that it's all on the same side of the equation, combined down to just one copy of that letter. And then finally, if you followed these steps right, you should just have a 1 or 2-step equation. Usually it's a 2-step equation, but sometimes you get lucky and it's a 1-step equation. All right, that's it for the notes today. We've got an assignment on Canvas. If you have any questions, please message your math teacher, whichever one of us it is, on Canvas. Thank you for putting up with some technical difficulties today, and I hope that today's assignment goes well.